All right, I'm Jeff Anderson, and I'm here with my dear colleague, Molly Burke, and we're here right now to announce that we just got a decision from the Minnesota Supreme Court. And the question before the Minnesota Supreme Court was, are we in Minnesota, as a matter of public policy, going to protect predators in the public schools, or are we going to protect the kids? And the Minnesota Supreme Court finally has determined that we have chosen to protect the kids in the schools instead of the predators. And so, to the question, are the courts going to protect the predators or the kids? In Minnesota, the kids are safer today. And they're safer today because, not just because the Supreme Court made a definitive and broad sweeping ruling that says that public schools can't claim this broad immunity to protect and insulate themselves against legal liability when they choose to hire a predator and or protect a predator. And they can't use that and misuse it to allow predators in their classrooms and to continue in their classrooms. And as a result, we can say today, as a result of the courageous survivors that spoke up, who made reports, and who are working with us to not only give voice to the horrors inflicted upon them in the community, but to do something about the law that has prevented them in the cases of kids being abused in public schools in Minnesota from being able to hold school administrators, school principals, and school districts responsible for irresponsible choices has now changed. And so first, I want to open with credit to the courageous survivors with whom we stand and work every day for allowing us to stand with them to do something to protect other kids. And before I go to the decision, Molly Burke, because you did and work with us so long and hard on behalf of this courageous survivor, Doe against the school district here at Best Academy and the Harvest Best Academy, and involving Aaron Hjermstad and his abuse of dozens, actually hundreds of kids. Why don't you just give us what do you think the significance of this decision just made by the Supreme Court is, and we can talk about it.
So just to start with, Doe 601 is a very, very courageous young man who, his case started 4.5 years ago. So he has fought a fight, and his family has fought this fight for a long time. So we really honor him and his family right now, and that their courage to also keep going when it's been, we've hit a lot of hurdles, and we had losses at the district court and at the appellate court, but they were willing to keep fighting because we couldn't have done it without their willingness to keep going. So we're here today because of that young man and that family, and it's a big victory that has been very hard fought, hard earned, because this case was very difficult when we were in the litigation process years ago to really mine what we needed to know to uncover the tactics by this school, by the administration and the leadership that really led to the hiring of a known offender who had previous many complaints about conduct that was inappropriate and complaints about sexual conduct against minors that was clearly a violation of law. Yet he landed at this school, at this charter school, and was embraced and went on to hurt many children there. So we're so thrilled today that the court did the right thing and allows us now to hold this school accountable, because he hurt a lot of kids at this school, and the leadership had opportunities to do the right thing and they didn't. And instead they protected themselves and they fought, and they made this survivor fight in court for now 4.5 years.
And it's not just about this school, Best Academy, and their choices to protect this offender. This now applies across the board to all public schools in Minnesota. So administrators, principals, and school districts, beware. There is a peril and there is a danger that you have ignored. And for decades, we have been pounding the drum to try to change the law and bring cases across the state. Most largely have been dismissed on this governmental immunity. No longer the law, no longer the case. So let's talk about this case that brought us together. Aaron Hjermstad, he's now in prison for, I think, 12 or 14 years for having sexually abused multiple kids because survivors came forward and got reported to the police. But before he got prosecuted, he had been reported to the police, and reports about his conduct as a teacher at Excel Academy and other places had been reported and investigated. But Eric Mahmoud, who is the chief executive officer at Harvest Best Academy and runs a large charter school network, made some conscious choices through his employees to hire Hjermstad. And instead of checking his references, which would have revealed that he had been investigated for sexual abuse of minors by police, instead of checking with his former employer, Excel Academy, where reports of his abuse had been made and ignored, where he had been reprimanded at former employees for sexual abuse and boundary violations with kids, they hired him. And as a result, began to continue his predatory ways, sexually abusing kids at this academy, and many of them we currently represent, and there's many more that we don't, that we know he did this too, because he is a serial offender, and we now know he's been arrested again, and we now know that it's been reported that he's videotaped how many different kids?
There was over 100, and there was thousands of videos.
So that's how bad it is that this serial predator was hired and protected and permitted by Eric Mahmoud, and then when confronted, denied responsibility and fought us continuously throughout this journey. And it was at Harvest Best Academy that they made these decisions. It's also notable and alarming to us that when we took his deposition as this leader and this founder and this prominent community leader, that he tried to blame others who he had hired for the hiring decision, refusing to take any responsibility. And we learned later that one of his employees, who is and was made the teacher of the year,
Abdul Wright.
Abdul Wright, who was sexually abusing an adolescent teenage girl. The parent of that girl reported to, hold this picture up again, to Eric Mahmoud. And what did Eric Mahmoud do? Nothing. And that teacher, Abdul Wright, teacher of the year, continued to abuse that teen. And when we asked him in deposition on this case about any other reports having been made, he lied. And so it's not about Eric Mahmoud. It's not about Hjermstad, the serial offender. It's about the public school system, the school administrators that have been given permission until now by the law to be able to make decisions that imperil kids without consequence. And now there will be, and there is consequence because they can be sued. And we have dozens of cases waiting for the Supreme Court to finally make this decision that we knew was imminent and important and likely to have happened. And so we joyously receive this decision as a clarity in the law that never should have been what it was. We also need to also identify the scope of the problem of sexual abuse of kids in public schools. The Bloomsburg School of Public Health and Department of Mental Health just came out, at Johns Hopkins, came out with a comprehensive study that shows that in all of the 6 youth-serving organizations, the top 6, there has been a reduction of sexual abuse, except for 1, and that is public schools. And in all of the other areas, from religious to boys and girls clubs and others, there has been a 20% reduction because of public awareness and because of public liability imposed upon those various institutions and organizations. That means courageous survivors bringing lawsuits for decades with whom we've stood and others alike. But this research showed that in public schools, there has been an increase. And in Minnesota, they've been allowed to get away with it until now. So, to all the survivors who have come forward and those that are now suffering in silence, worried that there isn't help and there won't be help, there is help and there can be help and something can be done both for those that have been hurt in our public schools in a way that we couldn't do something before. And for that, we're really grateful to all the survivors, and we're grateful to the Supreme Court for finally getting it, because for years the courts have not been getting it, and they've been getting it wrong. And now they got it right. And so we're here to say today is a real breakthrough in child protection. And that the policy is now that we're not going to protect predators, and we're not going to protect principals, we're not going to protect school administrators, we're not going to protect school districts, and we're not going to give them immunity to pass predators from one school to another, and to hire pedophiles without consequence. And now that that is the law, there can be accountability for choices made by top administrators across the state of Minnesota. So I feel so grateful to you, Molly, for the hard and good work you have done here, to Will Flegel, who worked with us in the bringing of this case before the Supreme Court, and particularly to all the survivors who have found the courage to come forward and know that together we can make a difference. Together we can do something to protect others in the future. And together we can do something to help those that have been hurt so gravely, the way Hjermstad hurt so gravely so many hundreds of kids and others like him. And so it's a great day. It's a great day for our children in these schools. It's a great day for the parents of children in our schools. And it's a great day that now we have light and we have the opportunity to bring truth, and we have a better chance to make our schools safer the way they should have been in the past. And so thank you to all the survivors with whom we stand, and particularly this family that has carried their courage with us throughout this 5-year odyssey, one time after another, where the court said no, no, no. And they continued to say, well, what should we do? And we said to them, let's persist. You're right, and we are too. And someday we'll have this chance, and today is it, for the truth to be known. So gratitude to all.